Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. If you're watching this live, I hope you can hear me. My name is Connor Kelly O'Brien. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Scranton Fringe, and I am running in circles. I am so excited to have you here for our second day of our mini Fringe Festival here in the world of Animal Crossing. If you're live streaming this from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, welcome. You can comment at any time with any questions, greetings, or well wishes. We are presenting this totally free, but we do encourage donations and tips for our artists all weekend. As you see scrolling across the bottom of your screen, you can support us on Venmo at Scranton Fringe, PayPal, scrantonfringe@gmail.com, Cash App, Scranton Fringe, or by going to our website, scrantonfringe.org/support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so excited to be bringing not only national artists to you, but regional creative partners and allies in the arts and culture sector. I am thrilled to welcome to the virtual stage the curator of the Everhart Museum of Art, Science, and Natural History, Francesa Saldan. Hi, Francesca. How are you?
Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
Wonderful. Francesca, just to mention, you look fantastic today. A little different, a little cartoony today. You feeling okay?
I'm feeling very good, very warm in my sweater.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, what we're going to be doing here today, just to let our friends know out there, we are going to be discussing real live works of art that are featured here in the Animal Crossing Museum. This video game, for those who don't know, has been a bestseller for just about a year from Nintendo. It has taken the world by storm, augmented definitely due to the pandemic and quarantine as a virtual escape. It has within the game this beautiful museum which features art, fossils, which we will be getting to, and even bugs and fish, which we will not be getting to today. So we want to use this game as an educational tool to discuss the works that it does feature, the works that it's not featuring, and then making some real-world connections to the collection at the Everhart, well, small portion of the collection at the Everhart Museum in Scranton. Now, Francesca, my first question to you, I'm super curious. What are your general thoughts on this game being used as an educational platform, incorporating all this real works of art and other things one might find at a museum?
Yeah, I think it is an incredible opportunity for people who live just about anywhere to be able to experience some pretty well-known pieces of art just from maybe the comfort of their own home. I think it's also an incredible testament to a lot of the efforts that have been made in the arts and culture sector to digitize art that exists and make it so widely available to the public.
I agree completely. Now, just for the sake of transparency, and so we're all being honest and holding ourselves to account, we are definitely going to be seeing a very particular kind of art featured in this game and museum for the most part. Would you like to speak on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So what you will be able to take a look at as we take a walk through is that a lot of the pieces that are on display are definitely very Eurocentric. They are certainly many of the classics, well-known pieces by many white male dead artists. And that's just really based on a lot of history, a lot of colonialism. And that's, the subject for a different talk, but it gives us a very small glimpse into the world of art in the sense of who's actually making art and what art is getting featured in museums and put on display. So I think that while many of these pieces are phenomenal pieces of the art historical canon, we definitely are missing pieces from Black and brown artists that are not featured here, but definitely deserve to be held in the same recognition.
Absolutely. And we encourage anyone out there who's huge fans of the game, which is wonderful because it's been a fantastic distraction, maybe drop a line to Nintendo, maybe encourage them in a future update to expand the canon and collection of this museum. For now, though, we are going to get started, and we are going to be starting here in our, and also we also want to mention any fans of the game out there, before you come for us in the comments, we are aware that our museum here on the Fringe Island is not completed to the full effect that the game provides. If you want to donate those missing pieces, let us know. It's really hard to collect that, especially when, as much as we love this platform, believe it or not, Scranton Fringe is not dedicated solely to the development of this video game. Okay. Now, without further ado, let's dive in here with some of these Roman and Greek inspired statues. We have our friend right here, the Venus de Milo. Francesca, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so the Venus de Milo is a pretty well-recognized sculpture. It depicts the goddess Venus, who is a Roman goddess of love and beauty. She's also known as Aphrodite by the Greeks. She's the goddess of love and passion. She's associated with prosperity and victory. And she is often depicted in the nude, as are many Greek and Roman sculptures. This one in particular kind of shows a very popular style for Greek and Roman sculpture, which is to have the figure stand in what's called contrapposto, which basically means that their shoulders and hips are at differing angles, which gives them a much more natural look to how they stand versus, maybe standing much more rigid and much more aligned. So we actually at the Everhart have a sculpture of Venus that looks a little different from this one. Our sculpture is known as Crouching or Bathing Venus. You'll see a picture of her right here. And ours is possibly after a Roman original of this same sculpture. There are many copies and reproductions of this particular Venus sculpture that can be found all over the world today, but they all have slightly different features, which really makes it impossible to tell what the original looked like. But scholars pretty much agree that the goddess is portrayed surprised at her bath, which is why she looks modestly covering up her nude body. But many of the copies that survive depict her in the same way, crouching on her right knee near the ground, her head tilted to the right, and her right arm over her left shoulder to cover herself. So copies of originals, much like this one, are very, very common of Greek and Roman statues. And many of copies exist within the Everhart's collection as well. So actually at one point, the entire second floor of the Everhart was actually filled with marble sculptures and plaster casts of Roman and Greek sculpture, which is a pretty great scene.
Do you know approximately when that would have been?
Oh, that would have been pretty much in the early days of when the Everhart shifted towards more art focused. I don't have an exact date, but I'm going to say it was probably around the 50s or 60s.
Fantastic. If you have anyone out there in the comment section who remember that or have seen pictures of that locally, please feel free to comment. I want to mention as well, if you have any questions about what we're discussing, anything to do with the Animal Crossing Scranton Fringe project or the Everhart Museum, please comment, and we will do our best to get to them live while we're talking. Let me ask you, Francesca, on a personal note, the Crouching Venus that we see here on the screen at the Everhart Museum, is this your personal favorite sculpture currently on display at the museum? And if not, what is?
Yeah, she is quite beautiful. I think it is a true artistic testament to be able to carve something so hard like marble and make it look so soft. Really the folds of her skin, of her hair, of her fingers, it looks so, I want to use the word supple, but really just lifelike. And it's a pretty exceptional piece of art.
Fantastic. Friends, I'm going to wait 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing that image so I can share with you another fantastic image from the museum collection of this statue. There we go.
Yeah, so this is a photo of our main gallery. We moved our Venus out to the center of our second floor and built this pedestal around her where you can leave wishes or love notes to the goddess, a kind of fun activity.
Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, back to our virtual world. The Venus de Milo, statue of the Roman goddess of love and beauty, everything you've already covered. Fantastic. Great. Are we ready to move on to our next piece?
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Walking through the museum. This way, Francesca. Big empty space on the wall. I'm not really sure where I'm going. There we are. Okay, fantastic. Now we have here before us our next featured piece, Liberty Leading the People. Francesca, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this is a pretty striking piece, as you mentioned, titled Liberty Leading the People by Eugene Delacroix, who is a French artist, and depicts liberty right smack dab in the center as the woman kind of leading a revolution. And the painting really shows suffering and heroism and drama in this sort of darkened color and then spotlight and lighter in the center. And these are all really pretty much characteristics of romantic paintings. And this romanticism is actually an artistic movement that took place between like the 1780s and the 1830s, and was largely a movement defined by artists' individual feelings based on natural subjects like people and an overall moody atmosphere like we can see here. So romantic painters were often known to grapple with political subjects like the French Revolution or the American Revolution, or symbols of newly found nationalism, and also like local folklore. So it kind of runs the gamut. The museum actually has, at the Everhart, an example of another romanticism painting done by a different artist. This painting, once we can pull it up, it exhibits a lot of the same sort of moody qualities, the sort of very deep tones that we'll see kind of paralleled to the image that we were looking at. So this image that was just pulled up is titled The Dismal Swamp, actually depicting the Great Dismal Swamp, which is a national natural landmark located in northeastern North Carolina and southern Virginia. And this was painted by another French artist, Regis Francois Genoux. He came to the US for a number of years and made trips down to the South to paint this section. And he was also a member of the Hudson River School artists. And he really just exaggerated nature and the landscape. And you can kind of see here how he, in a very similar way, very much dramatizes the natural world and the beauty of maybe the sunset or sunrise. I guess it's a little unclear. But in the same way that I think we can see in Liberty Leading the People.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, just to remind our friends out there, you can comment at any time with questions, thoughts. I want to say hello to some of our friends who have been engaging with us via different reactions. Hello, Maggie. Hello, Gail. Hello, Jack. Hello, Nikki. Hello, Melissa. Thank you so much for helping share and react to this post. We encourage comments, even if you just want to say hello. It always helps the conversation. We have viewers joining us from Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube right now, so we welcome all of you. For those who maybe who are just tuning in, we're here with Francesca from the Everhart Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We're doing a live interactive tour of the Art Museum and the Fossil Museum here in Animal Crossing, with making real-life connections to the collection at the Everhart Museum of Art, Science, and Natural History. Francesca, for our friends who may not be as familiar with the Everhart, can you tell them where to go to find out more?
Yeah, of course. So the Everhart's actually located in Scranton, Pennsylvania, right in Naog Park. But we, like many organizations, have pivoted to existing in the virtual world too. So if you are interested in learning more, you can visit us at everhart-museum.org. And we have actually also digitized some of our exhibits, and I've also put online many of our educational resources, which you can find in our mobile guide if you visit our visit tab on our webpage. So I highly encourage you to stop by.
Fantastic. And just to remind everyone one more time, that's everhart-museum.org. We've put the link in the comments section. Wherever you're watching this, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you can either click on that directly or visit it later, everhart-museum.org. We have a few comments. We have from Victoria saying, hello. Hi, Victoria. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions for Francesca, we'd love to have them. We also have a comment on YouTube from the Everhart Museum itself. Hello, all. Thanks for this fun event. Thanks to everyone at the Everhart team who helped make it possible and is cheering Francesca on from afar. We appreciate it. Is there anything else to discuss about Liberty Leading the People, or should we move on?
If anyone has any questions about this piece or maybe the other piece I mentioned, but if not, we can maybe move on.
Okay, sounds fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to fantastic. Okay, Francesca, if you are ready to follow me, let's head to our next piece down here.
All right, let's go. A nice leisurely walk.
Just taking a stroll. Okay, we'll speed it up a little bit. One of my favorite pieces in this virtual collection, right here by George Surratt. Huge fan. Actually, I teach a virtual class in partnership with one of our local partners, Arts and Education NEPA, and I just recently used this one to show the parallels of art and how visual art can inspire theater. Famously, this painting inspired, in addition to the work and career of the artist, the Broadway musical Sunday in the Park with George. So I thought I was really excited to show the kids how art can continue to inspire other versions of itself over and over and over and over. Very cool. Okay, here we are at our next piece. Apples and oranges, and I will give a better view of that where my head's not totally blocking it a little bit, but for now, let's just dive in.
Yeah, so Apples and Oranges by Paul Cézanne is a pretty great piece. So it's right next to another still life, but Paul Cézanne was one of the great post-impressionists. And you might be familiar with the word impressionist if you've ever visited the Everhart. We have some other impressionist paintings on display, most notably by an artist named John Willard Rott, who painted landscapes right here in northeastern Pennsylvania. But you'll see many of the similar tones in post-impressionist work. Some of the, maybe not strict lines, the changing light, all of that is kind of captured in this painting. And so Cézanne's work is really a still life, right? So still life is a very, very old type of painting. The first still life paintings and carvings really date back to ancient Egypt, maybe even before then, and really have persisted through to contemporary art as well. The Everhart has quite a few still lifes in our collection that also run the gamut in terms of when they were done and who they were painted or done by. One that I think makes a really interesting connection to this particular piece, Apples and Oranges, is also titled The Orange by Hope Horn, which you can see here. So this one's a little more minimalistic, but we still have the fruit right center. And so Hope Horn actually taught at the University of Scranton and taught art classes at the Everhart. She died in 2001 and was really a pretty pivotal character for this area. And luckily, the Everhart has acquired many of her pieces. And in addition to doing still lifes like these, we actually have other pieces of her work. She did sculptures. So we have a few examples of her ironwork pieces that she created. One of them is actually out front of our building called the Red Wing. So if you're ever driving by or walking in the park, just stop by and you'll see another example of her work. But in addition to her, we have a lot of other traditional types of still lifes that maybe are a little more detailed, less minimalistic, but I think this makes a pretty good connection between something more modern and something that maybe happened at the turn of the century.
Fantastic. Now, if everyone could bear with us for 1 second, if you want to queue up, you mentioned, Francesca, other still lifes in the museum's collection.
Yeah.
So if you want to queue up our next piece, we're going to be connecting to this virtual one. We have here, voila.
Oh, yeah. So this one I think is a little more realistic in terms of its depiction. Definitely not as minimalistic as our one by Hope Horn. This piece, Still Life with Flowers, was done in 1863 by an artist named James H. Cafferty. He was an American artist. And it's pretty interesting to see the arrangement of fruit that's on this table, to think that at one point in the mid-1800s that you could acquire all of this fruit in the same place. While we might take it for granted today, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, to be able to source all of this different sorts of food in the same location at the same time is pretty astonishing. So he was either painting from memory or had a great opportunity to get all of this in one spot. But I think it makes a nice parallel to Cézanne's piece here on display.
Fantastic. Now, I want to mention the Hope Horn piece one more time, because in addition to, of course, being a regional native artist who's no longer with us, of course, that orange piece I know has been so popular and so well received by so many of your visitors. What do you think, in your personal opinion, and of course with your professional expertise, is there something emotional that piece invokes? Is there something universal about, the color scheme, with your art background and expertise? What is it about that piece in particular do you think that people really respond to?
Yeah, that's a great question. It certainly is one of the pieces that many visitors stop by and spend time looking at. I would think that one of the more striking things is how minimalistic it is. It kind of gives you this sort of intimate feeling because there's only one really key piece featured in that painting for you to focus on, but it also has complementary color planes that kind of frame it as well. So it's a pretty interesting piece. She also plays with shadows really nicely, and she does that in a lot of her other work. So if you look under the orange, you'll kind of see the dynamic shadows that are there. So it does really have this sort of three-dimensionality, even though it's only a 2D painting.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Excellent. Apples and Oranges by Cezanne. Amazing.
Yeah, always a favorite.
We wanted to mention to everyone here watching that if you are just joining us, we are here with Francesca, the curator at the Everhart Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We are here to do a discussion of some of the work found here in the Animal Crossing Virtual Museum and making connections to real pieces at the Everhart collection. We are going to be leaving the art portion for today in just a minute. I want to give everyone one more chance to comment. Let's take the long way back, just to give everyone a chance to view our still work in progress art museum. Can only imagine the budget that this museum would have if it was real. Fantastic. Let's head back this way, passing Liberty, leaving the people one more time. Boy and blue, blah, 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 blah. Fantastic. We do have, of course, one of the most famous pieces in the world. I'm just going to ask you, Francesca, throwing a total curveball.
Sure.
The Mona Lisa. Why is it considered like such a cliched famous piece, in your opinion?
You know, I don't know. It's taken on this total mythology. It's actually super small in person. I had the opportunity to see it many years ago. I went to the Louvre, and it's this huge room, and this piece pretty much takes up the whole room, and it's maybe not bigger than like a sheet of paper. It's super tiny, but there was always a huge crowd. I'm not sure what has been the allure, but I think that it definitely has stood the test of time.
It's definitely something that its myth has surpassed its, and again, it's all subjective, but its myth has surpassed its own artistic merit. Would you
Absolutely.
agree? Yeah. Very cool. And again, if you'd love this piece, tell us why. There's nothing wrong with liking what you like. Okay, we are going to move on to the Dinosaur Room here in the Animal Crossing Museum. I want to mention to everyone out there one more time, comment whether you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch with any questions about anything we've discussed, Animal Crossing, it's the Scranton Fringe Animal Crossing Festival itself, the Everhart Museum. I want to mention one more time, please, if you can, we are doing this entire weekend at no charge to the public. I feel like I'm screaming now from the distance to the camera. Please donate if you can via Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, or via our website. $5, $10, $20 donation keeps this virtual event alive and also keeps Scranton Fringe programming like this and our innovative work going through the pandemic. All right, let's move on to the Dinosaur Room. It'll give people a chance to get a better sense of... It's interesting to see how museums worldwide have really embraced this video game as a teaching tool. And I think it's really, really interesting and cool. And I think there's something very, I don't want to say topical, but I respect the quick ingenuity of response that this video game has provided a lot of arts organizations like ours. So I'm really grateful for that. All right.
Yeah, nothing else we've had to be able to pivot and adapt, right?
Yes. And I think there's something really powerful about, being able to use a tool that's already kind of taken on a life of its own out in the world to make connections back to art, to further reinforce its importance and influence.
Absolutely.
We have a comment here from Olga asking, I've heard that the Mona Lisa became popular only after it was stolen in the beginning of the 20th century. Is that true? I am not familiar with that, Olga.
I'm not familiar with that either.
Interesting. We'll do some research into that. Olga, that's a great question. If anyone out there is more familiar or has resources with some sources to cite, I'd love to learn more about that. I'm not aware that it was stolen at all. Stolen in the beginning of the 20th century. Fascinating. Olga, if you have an article from a reputable source out there that you want to share, I'm sure both Francesca and I, after this is over, would love to read that. Let's head this way. Now, anyone who has been to the Everhart Museum, and if you haven't had the pleasure, next time you're in Northeast Pennsylvania and it is open and safe to do so, please visit it. You might be familiar with a friend and cousin of this creature, the Stegosaurus. Oop, I'm going to go back to that one more time. The Stegosaurus.
Oh yeah, what an awesome dinosaur. An example specimen that we have here. So the Stegosaurus is a herbivore or a plant-eating dinosaur. And you'll see its body is pretty large. It has these fans on its back, but its head is super tiny, right? So for proportionality, it's kind of all over the place, but it's an incredibly interesting dinosaur nonetheless. And so the Stegosaurus, being a plant-eating dinosaur, would have to eat tons and tons and tons of vegetables and plants throughout the day to get the sort of calories it needed to survive. And so it actually would intentionally swallow small rocks known as gastroliths that help to mash up the tough vegetables that were in its enormous stomach. And so you'll see here, this is the full cast Stegosaurus that's on display at the Everhart, who we have endearingly named Spike. So he is displayed on a bed of small rocks, and that's actually what that's alluding to, that they would ingest that to kind of help with their digestive tract. But this is pretty much one of the big show-stopping pieces that we have at the Everhart. Everyone really loves him. But like I mentioned, he's a full-size cast. We actually don't have any dinosaur fossils in the Everhart's collection, but we do have a ton of plant fossils and a ton of anthracite fossils. So all of our fossils were found here in northeastern Pennsylvania, and they were created during the Carboniferous period, which means that they're made from anthracite coal, which is pretty much what this area is founded on, right? So PA was actually a very large swamp millions of years ago, and this region, when the continents looked a little different, was actually along the equator during that time period, which meant that the environment was much more tropical than it is now. I know that's hard to believe since we're in the middle of a northeastern winter, but we were a very tropical location. And that meant that we had tons of plants that were huge, much like you would see in the Amazon today. And here you'll see an example of a plant fossil that we have. These plants would be super tall, trees super tall, and really predate a lot of species that still exist today. So the fossils that are found in our region, like I mentioned, and like this one shows, are made from anthracite coal, which essentially is compressed plant remains compacted over millions of years, which is why we have so many intact plant fossils. These also give us an awesome glimpse into what our past environment was like, which is also pretty interesting and offers a lot of educational resources for scientists that are still looking into the past and reconstructing what that looked like.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm just blown away by all the, in just half an hour, the multitude of connections to the real work and a small sample of what's on display at the Everhart Museum. We want to remind everyone out there that you can go to everhart-museum.org or click on the link in one of the comments section wherever you're watching this. Olga, thank you for sharing this Washington Post article in our comments about how the Mona Lisa was stolen. I actually found just a few seconds ago an NPR article as well. And apparently, yes, on August 21st, 1911, the Mona Lisa, along with other work, was quietly stolen from the museum in Paris. And it kind of became famous overnight. And according to this article, while painted in 1507, it wasn't really popular by critics until the 1860s, and it didn't reach its, cliched level of fame with the public until this theft occurred in 1911. That's really cool. Thank you, Olga, for sharing that.
Super interesting. Thanks for sharing.
That's super great. Fantastic. Francesca, before we take a break for the day, is there anything else you'd like to talk about what the museum is working on? Any cool, upcoming, exciting projects you're excited about? Anything in the works?
Yeah, so I think like everyone, the Everhart has been working very diligently behind the scenes to get back on our feet early this year. I know we're making some plans for reopening. So please check out our website, everhart-museum.org, to keep in the loop about our reopening plans. And we do have some new exhibits that are digitized and virtual that you can check out now, but you can also come to check out in person, as well as a whole lineup of events that will be posted with more details coming soon. So hopefully 2021 will be a much brighter year, and I'm getting excited for the warmer months to come.
Agreed. And I know you have your fantastic Art in Bloom event coming up at the end of March, which we're super excited to be a part of. I want to take this moment to thank everyone so much for joining us today. We had a fantastic live audience. If we didn't get to a comment, which I'm pretty sure we got everything, but if you have a comment after the fact, please feel free to leave it. We'll direct it to whomever is best served to answer it. Continue to watch this channel wherever you're watching it, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. We have programming for the rest of the evening starting at 6 p.m. Hi, Nika. Thank you so much. Nika is one of our featured artists who did a fantastic cabaret all set in the world of Animal Crossing, which will be airing later this evening. If you're watching it after the fact, go to Scranton Fringe on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. We're going to be saving all the videos, including this one. So hello, if you're joining us after the fact. And last but not least, I just want to make one more appeal. If you've loved this conversation, if you're enjoying this weekend of virtual content, make a donation, $5, $10, $20. No amount is too small. We have yet to see an amount that is too large. And your donations not only help us empower this event, but helps us keep growing our digital and safe in-person programming as all arts and cultural organizations navigate this pandemic. Go to the Everhart website museum if you'd like to make a donation to them directly as well. That's fantastic. Hi, David. We have a comment from David Andrew. Applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so grateful to everyone watching this. I want to thank Francesca for being here today. I want to thank Liz, the co-founder of Fringe, for helping us behind the scenes. And yeah, tune back in at 6 o'clock tonight as we continue our virtual programming. Wear a mask out in the real world and stay safe, everybody. Thanks.